Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and once again, I will be in the driver's seat for what promises to be an amazing show. And it's going to be an amazing show because we have an amazing guest in Mr. Jeff Hampton. Jeff, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Josh. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Totally our pleasure here, Jeff. Totally. So, Jeff, why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do?
So I would say I'm an entrepreneur that happens to be an attorney. That's kind of how I identify myself, which is I actually own 3 law firms. My main primary focus right now is we do asset protection for the short-term rental Airbnb space. So I'm the co-founder of STR Law Guys. So we really just go out there and help a lot of investors in the real estate space, not just short-term rental owners, but really all real estate investors, help them protect their assets, preserve them, make sure they avoid a lot of these negative consequences of a lot of kind of startup investors are out there buying assets in their personal name. And then they're trying to navigate all of these landmines out there of getting it out of their personal name without tax consequences, lending consequences, refinancing consequences. So it's a pleasure for me to be able to work in an industry with a lot of investors that are growing. It's because my past, I used to be a personal injury attorney that sued people in that industry for premises liability events. So that it's much more rewarding to help people defend and protect their assets than it is to go take them away from people.
I can imagine so. You feel like you're helping the folks that work hard to build something rather than the folks that are just maybe taking advantage of the situation.
That's correct.
Gotta love it, man. So what got you started doing that, Jeff?
Well, so my journey is, when I first got out of law school, I went and worked at the district attorney's office for 5.5 years as a prosecutor. And so I was there trying everything from, shoplifting to capital murder cases, and spent a lot of time as a trial lawyer. I left, started a criminal defense firm, scaled that, moved my way out of that process, and then to an injury law firm. And as I was doing this, yes, I knew the real estate space because unfortunately I was the one going in and bringing lawsuits against commercial property owners for premises liability events. But then I started investing in my own real estate, right? And so what happened was it took me down a path where, as I was trying to create generational wealth, build my own legacy and do these things, it gave me a greater appreciation of understanding. I knew what worked in court. You could bring lawsuits, and I understood kind of, the vulnerabilities of kind of common myths that are out there about LLCs and insurance. And that took me down a path of understanding there is a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of just misconceptions. And there was a groundswell of interest from investors. When I would talk to them about my journey, they would say, you got to share what you're talking about, because I'm not sure how this works. That kind of led to the organic interest in starting STR Law Guys. And that brought me to where I'm at now, which is so much more rewarding.
I can imagine that it is. What do you like best about what you're doing?
It's definitely, for me, it's definitely the interaction with people and helping provide solutions for them. Because my past, when you take it the other way, it was very antagonistic. I'm going into court. We're fighting. We're there. And, was there a sense of gamesmanship to some of that? I grew up a trial lawyer coming out of law school. Yes. But it gave me an appreciation for being able to talk to the, investors now and say, well, actually, I've been down that road. When we went to trial on an issue similar to this, here's how it works. So to see the investor look at me and see that there's a solution, um, and not have to pay a $30,000 real estate transfer tax because they have a front row beach property in Florida, and they found out that there's a solution to that. That to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to double down on doing this. Let's continue to
Yeah.
go and help people with this.
My soul feels happier doing this than
Yes, no doubt. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
my purpose feels more. It was more enriching to me and my soul by doing that.
Oh man, and that is such an important part. People get locked into the money and locked into everything else instead of paying attention and keeping in mind that this whole life has to be part of a balance. Yeah, the money is great. The money gives you freedom, but it's got to be freedom to enjoy hanging out with yourself. If you can't stand yourself because of what you're doing, that's not a good place to be either.
That's right. And honestly, the networking, getting to know people, the people aspect of that was so much more rewarding for me because I'll be frank with you, you can go to the injury law firm side of things, you get some settlements, the money can be great. You go after
Sure.
insurance companies and things like that. But man, at night, it's kind of like, oh, another fight, another, somebody walks away. It's a zero sum game. Somebody's not
Yeah.
happy. The work I
Yeah.
get to do, everybody that I work with, it's all rewarding and enriching.
That's
So.
awesome, man. That's really awesome. So where do you think all the success came from for you?
Well, I think for me, it's interesting. I guess it depends on how you define success, but I think the way that I looked at it was from the time I got out of law school, I knew that I wanted to run my own business. I did not want to just, I've kind of had an entrepreneurial mindset for many years, even back to when I was in my teens. And so I knew that I was preparing myself to do something that could hopefully have a bigger impact. So as I went into this, I have this I've had this tendency of want to remain in momentum, continue to learn. I kind of look at it now and I say the secret to whatever someone wants to label as success for me is that I never stop learning. And I know that there's opportunities out there to meet people like yourself and others where I can learn from best practices of what other people are doing. It's what, when I see people that have decided they have it figured out, I know they've stopped growing.
Yeah.
I know they're not headed to new heights. And I know that they're going to miss out on enormous opportunities because there are so many talented people that are doing things that I don't know. And if I have the opportunity to grow with them and learn in that capacity, to me, that's fulfilling. It's not always about the money. If I'm doing things for the right reason, the money will come.
I love, and the piece of your story that I kind of picked up on is that you basically threw yourself to the wolves and having to go work in the district attorney's office to basically, that's like the fast track to learning what the hell's going on. I mean, if you want to know, if you want to get the deep end of having more than enough cases and having under pressure, have to do this thing and interact with the court, with the legal system all the time. In my uneducated opinion, that's got to be like the deep end of the pool kind of way of swimming, huh?
You're 100% correct. And in fact, it's one of those jobs when you go work at the district attorney's office, you get paid very poorly.
Yep.
There's not much money involved, but if you want experience, I think tried over 100 cases in a 5-year time span. So you're talking about, you can't do that anywhere else where you're
Yeah.
thrown into the fire, jury experience, really just kind of jumping into it. There's attorneys that don't try more than 5 cases their whole career.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the system has been set up. So for me, I saw it exactly that way. Let's live like this now so that I can live a different way later, right? Let's just
Let's
get
embrace
into
the
this.
stuck now. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's right.
I
That's a
love
good
it,
point.
because it goes into what you were saying, the idea of continuing to grow. You saw that you had the need to grow, and so you put yourself in the fire so that coming out of it, you could respect the person, that you knew that that person coming out of there would be a lot more valuable version of you.
That's right. And I don't ever want to die from that because I'm going to tell you I have some mentors and I look at now that still in their 70s and even 80s still do that. And I really am, I very much respect it when I talk to some of my mentors and they're like, you know what, we're called to do hard things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to just rest in the known, the simple. It makes you complacent. And there's lots of people out there that you see that accomplish amazing things, and what they do is they embrace that suck. They eat the frog. You name all the examples you want to call it,
Yeah.
but that's what they do. And when you stop doing that, you're going to find yourself starting to veer. You're either growing or you're dying. You're going to start coming back down, and I don't want to lose that drive.
Totally. No, man. I mean, I just was facing one of those the other day, and it's a little stupid thing, but my marketing people wanted me to start using a different social media platform, an additional, like one more. And I'm like, why? What's wrong with why? I don't want to learn another one. And I'm like,
Right.
this is it. This is that resistance that comes where, although I've never been a social media guy really, but it's that resistance that comes, well, the old way worked just fine. Let me get out
Yeah.
the old Xerox machine and the manual typewriter and bang it out kind of thing. And
Yes.
it's this resistance, and yeah, it's fighting that and throwing yourself in there. And I can't agree more. The people that I see that are older folks that embrace newer technologies and go in there. My father, man, he was in his 60s, and the internet comes out, and he's like, no, Josh, this is the thing. You got to understand what's going on. He was one of the first investors, one of the early investors in all the internet stocks. Google, eBay, Amazon. I mean, all these when nobody knew what the ticker symbol was.
Yeah.
He was all over it because he saw the handwriting. But he was always that guy looking for the new idea. What's the next best thing?
Well,
Yeah,
that's good because I will tell you I mean, you see that now with AI, right? So we
yeah,
know artificial intelligence is here. You have some people that are early adopters. They take it on, they understand how it can create a competitive advantage. And then there are other people who look at it and all they see is the fear aspect of it. And a lot of people looked at the internet that way.
yep.
And I have that is it's almost a systemic issue in the legal industry because the legal industry, I have a lot of lawyers look at what I'm doing and they see it as a negative thing, like you're ruining the art of practicing law, or they see it as you're commercializing it. And I'm very upfront about it. This is a business. I am running a business, but I'm also meeting the needs of people that have problems that they need help with. You know what I'm saying? So adopting those principles, I feel like actually help service my clients and my market better, you know.
Couldn't agree more, man. It's finding a need and meeting that need better than other folks are. And if it maybe shakes up the legal system, you're in the process of shaking up the legal system. I try to do the exact same thing on the real estate side over here.
Yeah.
Um, these big monoliths sometimes need a little earthquake here and there to keep
Yeah.
them honest and get them going the way that they should be going, because they get a little bit too set in their ways. So
That's
I
right.
totally down with that. So,
Absolutely.
Jeff, what do you think makes you good at what you're doing, man?
Well, I mean, to be completely frank with you, I don't believe I'm any more talented than many other attorneys that do what they do. I don't believe that if I'm just being very self-reflective, I don't know that I have more skills or any more abilities. But the one thing I do have is a relentless drive to continue to push. And so now that can be an issue because I can tell you, my wife will sometimes say, you're so relentless, you're driven to the point where you have to make sure and maintain that balance. But I refuse. One of the things I do, and it's kind of just almost become habitual in the way that I see challenges, I just refuse to let up. So even if I continue to try and something's not working, there is a push through. And
Yep.
usually once there's a push through and there's a solution, you see just a parabolic increase. And then really not just for the money's sake, it's for now, what is the next thing I'm going to learn to get to a point where what is the person I'm going to become by the growth that I do through my business and the learning that I do so that I can become the person that I should be? What's my full potential? Because really at the end of the day, when I get to the end of my life, if there is such a thing as retirement, I want to get to a place where I've said, I've exhausted every ounce of potential that I had with what God gave me, even if it wasn't as much as some other people, I
Yep.
got the most juice out of the squeeze,
Yeah. No, let them carry me off the field in a stretcher. But
Right.
there's nothing left. This
That's
lemon has
exactly
been squeezed dry. Um,
that's right.
no,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. And that idea of becoming is one that we talk about on this podcast quite a bit. The idea that ethics has always been the study of how to live a good life. That's how the Greeks understood it. A meaningful, how does a human being behave in order to live a meaningful life?
Yes.
And the idea that the idea of virtue ethics is that every time that you make a choice, you're becoming slightly different. You're changing a little bit. You're becoming more
Yes.
in a way. And so I think that there's a lot to that. That's what I encourage people when we do coaching is, look, I don't want you to take and change like this. I just want you to be more like that person that you're capable of being each day. Start making the decisions that make you more like that person. And next thing you know, 5.5 years after being in the prosecutor's office, all of a sudden now you're a completely different guy, and you like and respect that guy more because that person tapped into, that person made it through the suck.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So many people want to be the person that's made it through the suck, but they don't want to go through the suck to get there.
Yes.
There's really just no shortcut to making that happen.
So and by the way, I really agree with that, because I think the problem is people see results and they don't understand
Ugh.
everything that you had to go through to get to that. And I try to remind folks, because I'll have attorneys that'll come to me and say, okay, hey, I see where you're at now. Give me the blueprint for this. I'll say, I'll tell you what, I could sit down and show you exactly what I did. But here's the problem. You're now going to have to take that knowledge, and in order for it to become wisdom, you're going to have to tap into the application. So you're
Yep.
going to have to actually do all of the repetitive work, all the steps, all the hiring, building the team, starting a YouTube channel when no one watches it. You're going to have to do podcasts when no one cares. You're going to have to put all this stuff together to build that brand. That may take an enormous amount of time to do that, even when it looks like it's not working. And then you'll get a break of light. You'll get sunshine through the clouds in a moment, and it'll start to happen. I think the biggest difference is many people are not willing to make that commitment and define success by repeating that process of working on it, as opposed to just expecting that immediate success.
Oh yeah, man. No, that I what you're talking about. What you're talking about to me is the BST factor, blood, sweat, and tears that
Yeah.
has to go into getting there. But the idea that instead of defining the win as the result, define the win for the day, have of doing the activities necessary to get to the result. Like, I'm not going to be mad that I didn't get there. I'm going to be happy that I did all the things that I'm supposed to be doing to be the person that eventually gets there.
See, and this actually goes back to what you said earlier too. That goes back to the Stoics. You go back and look at the Greeks, and one of the things that they talk about, what does it mean to live a good life? And part of that is having the discipline, the temperance, the self-control to say, I'm going to do these things because it makes me a better person, and I'm not going to choose to stop doing these good things even if the results weren't what I wanted them to be. You know what I'm saying? And that, I
Totally.
think that's missing a lot. Honestly, I don't think it's, I tell my kids this because I got 4 kids. So that secret to that success is that commitment of being that person.
Yep.
And if you choose to get up every morning and be that person, success will come. It's attracted. I mean, all of us are attracted to those kind of people. I want to be
Sure.
around them.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
I mean,
agree.
when you're talking about that idea of temperance we replace temperance with self-indulgence. I mean,
Yes.
it really is the thing. I mean, this is a society where if you're going to allow yourself to be soft, the siren call to be soft, to just take the easier road. There is an easier road that is available to you everywhere, but you're not going to like the person that shows
Yeah.
up at the other side of that. You're not going to respect that person. You won't have accomplished anything. And the worst part of it is there is one honest piece of equipment in your household, and that's that mirror that you look in every day, and you know whether you're looking at a winner or a loser when you look in there. And so it's your ability to persevere through those hard things that really helps you to respect that person. And then when you respect that person, now you know that person can do things. Well, all of a sudden, now you're not afraid to put the hammer down and really drive that person to see, well, wait a second, if they could do this, if I could do this,
Right.
what happens if I keep doing that?
That's
You know?
right. Yeah,
And that's going to be
that's
fun
so
eventually.
good. Yeah, I was going to say one of the things I was going to echo with that. That is so good because I, I I want people to understand that we're all still vulnerable as we do this growth, right? As we continue to grow, one of the things then I have concerns with for myself is that creates a release of dopamine. Once you start doing it, it starts happening, and you find things that take place there. You have to also still strike a balance between all the gardens of your life, making sure that you're investing and being that whole person that the Stoics talk
Absolutely.
about, and making sure you maintain that balance. Because otherwise, working hard and doing that can become a vice if it's to the
Totally.
exclusion of your relationships and your kids and things like that.
That's why, Jeff, I've gotten to a place where I literally schedule in the systems that I use for my business. I schedule my personal and all the other stuff in there to make sure
Yes,
I'm doing it, buying flowers, going out and whatever. It's
that's awesome.
all it's all in there because you're right. It's so easy that like this feels good. I like the way I feel when I'm winning. Let me keep doing that winning thing. And then you start winning in one place and losing in all the others. There's
Yes.
lots of people in this country who are very much out of balance the other way. A lot of folks
That's
that are
right.
very lazy and don't get ahead that way, right? Haven't figured out how to, not so much lazy, they haven't figured out how to get out of themselves what they're capable of. And then you have another group that's the only way they feel good about themselves, and they don't know how to take and be somewhere in between, be able to sit on a beach and do nothing and have that be okay.
Yeah. So true. Well, and you know why that goes, I think the solution to that goes back to your why from the very beginning
Mhm.
and your values, right? You
What
you
matters.
keep those values as your North Star and your why, and it helps kind of hopefully keep your compass back towards that balance of being able to accomplish both of those things. And that's a constant thing. You got to like check your compass on that daily because otherwise it's
Totally.
really easy to deviate. I agree.
And it's more than that. You got to take and figure out whether or not the things that you've identified as the things that matter are really the things that matter.
Yeah.
Because like one of the things I ask people all the time, if I asked you when you were 10 years old, if you knew life better than when you were 8, you'd be like, oh yeah, man, when I was 8, I had no, but now that I'm 10, I got to figure it out. If I asked you the same question when you're 15, you'd be like, oh my God, 10? No, but now that I'm 15, come on, 20, 30, 40, the answers are going to be different every single time,
That's right.
which
Yep.
means you can't really trust your own assessment of life. You got to figure out a better perspective, a better way to look at this. And I think the Greeks really kind of nailed it, which is this idea of looking back at the end of your life on the life you've lived and being able to be proud of the thing that you did, looking at it from the end. So asking yourself, if I was at the end looking back, what would be the thing? The thing that I like to say is, what do I want them saying about the guy they're putting in the box that they're about to give the big dirt nap to? What are they going to say about this guy?
Yeah.
And
That's good.
and for me, I mean, that may still be a flawed metric because maybe how I think about what I think are going to be, but I think it gets you closer. You have to sit there and say, hey, look, I want my people to say I was a good son to my parents. I want people to be able to say I was this kind of a guy. Um, and then working backwards from there. It's amazing how short-term rentals turns into a conversation about ethics. But when you got a background in the law, ethics is a big deal. Really, really is. So I love this, Jeff. I'm loving this rabbit trail. But I don't want to go too far afield because I know you've had a long night last night, getting in early. So let me kind of stand it on its head and ask you kind of an open-ended question to just let you see where this takes you. What do you see as the opportunity in the market today?
Well, um, interesting. I just had a conversation with some investors about this recently where, I have a tendency to end up talking to a lot of investors that are very, there's things we know what we know and we don't know what we don't
You don't
know.
know?
And the
Yeah.
tendency is to only look for opportunities in areas that we're already looking, right?
Hmm.
And so when I talk to short-term rental investors, sometimes their thing is just, what about short-term rentals? And if I can't find a short-term rental right now because it's not cash flowing or because interest rates are so high and there's not been this kind of correlation yet so much from a complete drop in some of these prices in relation to the level of interest rates. So I guess I just can't invest. And
Yeah.
then one of the things they found out is, well, hold on a second. One of the areas is, hey, the industry. What other opportunities are there? And I've talked to some investors where some short term rental owners are buying property management companies at
Mhm.
discounts. They're turning around and finding businesses that can be purchased. One of my biggest passions is to find, because I just finalized a merger with another law firm with one of my firms, and it significantly upgraded what we did here because we basically were able to purchase that business. And one of the things it did is I got it at a very reasonable price. It's not like you're finding it on Zillow or something like that, and it's a set rate with a particular interest rate. There's so much flexibility of how you can
Sure.
craft a deal, an agreement where you can have a win-win and
Yep.
create a multiple on that. So what I'm finding in the market right now is if you just talk about real estate, there are going to be opportunities. I believe that's coming. And I think there's always diamonds in the rough now that
Yes,
I
there are.
encourage real estate investors to keep looking. But I also say, what do you know? And don't just be thinking about the thing you've already invested in. Sometimes there's opportunities within the industry that you're familiar with where you could go in, and whether it's buying a business, whether it's JV, I'm a big believer in doing joint ventures, creating synergy amongst people who are already doing what you're doing and
Yep.
creating that multiple. That's what I'm finding can be very helpful right now.
Okay. So partnering with people and looking for alternative opportunities, maybe slightly outside a field from what the area that you normally are. I love
That's
that.
where I'm at. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And only because I'm finding right now, what I try to tell people from a 30,000 foot view, where is the area in the market right now where other people are seeing it as, distorted, or they're not interested. Like, there's a lot of property managers right now that are interested in potentially selling. There are
Sure.
there's things where you can find where you can get them at a discount, and you wouldn't notice it if you're not looking at the entire market, not just one subsection of it.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, kind of as taking on the role of a wizened sage, if you will, what is the most important thing you've learned in the process of doing what you do? If you had to take and pick a thing, don't know if you'll ever meet all of the listeners that we have here, but you could give them one nugget, what would it be?
Well, I mean, we've talked about some of this here, but I mean, it depends on kind of the context of what we're looking at. If I was talking to a business owner, one of the biggest things that I would look at with a business owner is to say, you must embrace the concept of leverage. You must understand your job as the founder. If you're a founder of the business, your job is to work your way out of a job so that you can do what your unique ability is and create enterprise value for your business. You
Mm,
need, and my point on that is I find a lot of people are interested in quitting their W-2 and starting a business. The problem is all they did is they just started a job. And
yep.
now the business itself has no value. It's completely wholly dependent upon them. So, in fact, this is part of, even in 2024, part of my theme is I'm looking for every way that I can to create leverage within my businesses and find more ways for me to do what my highest value work is, and only stay in my zone of genius and my unique ability, and not spend my time in areas that don't provide the biggest return. And everyone else, though, what you're talking about is, and if I were to just talk to everyone else generally, and that maybe are not a business owner, is what is, you really do need to get a hold of what your why is. And I just shared this recently. Once you know why you're going to do what you're going to do, that difference between knowledge and wisdom is application. What is the one thing you can do right now based on what you already know that will move you along in your journey to where your why is moving you, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, how many people go to conferences? How many people go and learn and take a course and do these things, and they never do anything with it? The numbers are staggering. And the reason
Yep.
why is they don't put feet to their knowledge. They've got to actually take the next step on that. And I think that's really the big difference between these highly successful and those that are still striving to be.
Yep. No, that makes sense. I think that's excellent. So, what do you think makes you passionate about what you do, Jeff? Because it's more than just a job for you. Obviously, you care very much about it. What makes you care so much?
Well, I will tell you, and this, I do love helping people. And I think I will say this, though, I'm kind of addicted to growth. My biggest thing is, if you say what creates the passion, I maybe it's as simple as the evolutionary dopamine hit of me
Yeah.
knowing that every time that I'm growing, there's the aha moments and saying, I never heard that before. This is, how does that apply in all these other opportunities? How can I better service this industry, our clients, these areas with this information? And then now, what's the challenge? Because we don't really ever grow unless we run into difficulties, usually. I mean,
Hmm.
in my experience, it's those difficulties that you have
The
to wade
adversity.
through before you
Yeah.
get. That's right. You got to go through that adversity. So for me, it's, when I'm in it, I'm not saying I'm excited about it, but as I make my way through it, I know I've grown, and I know I've got to go through that next hurdle. So I think the passion for me is I can help people find better ways to service people that have needs, and at the same time grow as a person. It's a win-win all across the board. And now that I've done it in multiple law firm settings in different market areas, it becomes one of these things that as you grow, you don't have to worry about money. And this is the
Yeah.
thing that I don't think people realize is, once you do that, when your focus is no longer money, money comes to you. And I don't want to sound like I'm manifesting it, but I'm saying it just works that way. That
Yeah.
because the more value you put in the marketplace, the more people are going to want to bring that value back to your direction through that law of reciprocity. So that, to me, is the passion of being able to expand that way that I can help others.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, a little bit more of a lightning round kind of thing. Not super fast, but we'll call it a quasi lightning round. Um, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished in business?
So I would say what I am most proud of that I've been able to do in my business is to build a team of A players that they feel um, they are able to be their best self and become what they want it to be. Everybody has a dream, right?
Yeah.
So if they can be a dream, they can reach their dream working with me, and I give them the autonomy to do that. That to me, I enjoy watching other people grow through an infrastructure that we put together through our business. That's been the most pleasing for me, is to be able to work with people like that. That I would say I'm most proud of that.
Okay. Similar question. What are you most proud of in life that you've accomplished?
Without a question, it's now I've still got two of my kids are younger, but as of right now, my wife and I have been married for nearly 25 years, and
Congratulations.
we are as in love today as we ever have been, and we have an amazing, strong relationship. I'm most proud of that because that is a big part of my why. And then my children, my two oldest, which when my son is almost on his way out, he's going to be graduating next year. Good kid, good young man, respectful, hardworking. So for me, that is a big part of my whole purpose on this earth, is to be committed to my family. And I'm still working on my two youngest, so it's to be continued. But my commitment is to that I can still be balanced and be the right father. My son came to me the other day and he said, "Dad, look, you know what? I have to ask you this question because of all the people I know, I respect your answer the most." And I said, "Whoa, okay, all right." That little tears in Dad's eyes, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, okay, of all the things to be proud of, that's the kind of stuff I'm grabbing a hold of, saying I'm proud of in life.
There's a country song, and the title is "That's the Good Stuff" or "The Good Stuff." That
Yeah,
right there, good sir, is the good stuff. That is the
that's right.
stuff,
That's right.
because they will carry that mantle that you've built going forward. I know. I do it with my dad, and if you
Well,
want to bring up,
isn't that the real legacy? Because I always talk
it
about
is.
legacy builders. I mean, wealth comes and goes,
Yeah.
but your family like that, you're still talking about your dad. It's materially affected you for the rest of your life, and that is legacy right there.
The wealth got in the way. The wealth had to be lost in
Mhm.
order to take and really tap into what that legacy of hard work and tough mindedness and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
prove to myself, as I had to build it all again from scratch, what that
Mm,
was like. But it was because of that legacy of who that man was that allowed that to happen. And so, yeah, no,
that's
that's the
good.
thing. I mean, sometimes, and Carnegie nailed it. Andrew Carnegie said, "Look, the worst thing you could do is leave your kids a bunch of money.
Yeah,
Um, it's
I
not good
agree.
stuff." Yeah, no, it's Carnegie was actually a very, I think he had a fourth grade education, but one of the smartest guys out there when it came to what to do with his money. He donated to libraries and organs, church organs. Those were his two things that he gave away. He said everybody should be able to hear music, and everybody should have the opportunity. You can't make them do it, but give them the opportunity to do something for themselves, to
So
learn.
good.
Yeah,
I agree.
no, I'm a big fan. All right.
Absolutely.
What one piece of advice would you give our listeners if you could?
Well, I can tell you this. I see a lot of people that, because of different reasons, pain, difficulties in their lives, maybe they've been disappointed by others, choose not to believe in themselves. And I know belief starts, I can talk about a why, I can talk about wisdom and applying and doing things. But if you don't believe in you, no one cares, just like no one cares about your business more than you do. If no one is going to, my dad told me one time when I was growing up, he said, "Son, nobody's coming to rescue you.
Yep.
Like there's no one coming to rescue you, but you have the ability to do this." And so one of the things that I try to do, and I teach my kids this too, is instill in them, they are not what their past was. Some of us need to reframe our past. We need to look at our past and not allow that past to be an excuse for our present and a failure for our future, but instead look at our past and create the resilience and the strength to be what we can be now. And now I know that sounds like a big kind of motivational thing that I'm talking about here, but I do that all the time. There are some things in my past that I could have very easily allowed to be something that held me back. But one of the things I look at it is what we've talked about before, picking yourself up and taking that first step, believing
Yep.
in yourself. And that applies for all of us. And you got to keep taking the steps and you keep doing it. That for me, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of skills. I don't have a lot. I'm not the, there's a lot of guys that are smarter than me, but if I just keep walking and I stay in momentum, no, I'm not going to get knocked down. And that's what I try to encourage my kids to do. And that's what I would encourage someone else to do is don't get complacent. Don't get stagnant. Keep moving. Keep moving.
I love it. There's so much to the self-help movement has become kind of its own thing and this kind of, rah thing. But so many successful people that I've talked to on the show, there's always a component of that managing of your own mental space.
Yep.
And that giving yourself what you need to persevere through the suck, because the suck is coming. What the hell are you going to do about it to be ready for it? Right. And so I think that it's just like anything else in life. There's a component to it that's very true and important, and overdone, it's not helpful, but kept in the right quantity and applied the right way, like any tool, it's one of the keys to success.
Yeah, I agree. And you believe, because here's the thing, your brain believes what you tell it about yourself.
Yep.
And so one of the things I hear just to people doing a lot of negative self-talk that they then use as a basis to not take action on things they know. And so one of the things I learned from my grandfather is that, look, there are two kinds of people in the world. There's givers and takers. And he said, which one are you? Right? Like you become the taker when it's all about I'm the victim and I can't do anything. And it's just, I have my past. He goes, but you become the giver when you stand up and you start walking and you see people you can help and you can do these things for. And that to me has always stayed with me. He lived into his 90s, but when he asked me which one I was, it kind of was like a shot to my face and said, well, I hope to God I'm a giver. He's like, well, you have to decide that every day.
Yeah. It's a decision.
It's a decision you make.
I like what you said there, and I think there's one other piece to it, which is you said that you tell yourself kind of who you are a little bit. I think you also show yourself who you are as well. I think that your actions drive home to you who the person doing them is. What kind of a guy am I? Am I a guy that stands or a guy that folds? Because like in our heart, we all want to be the guy that stands, maybe the person still standing, but until we see ourselves do that, we're never quite sure. And so, you can believe and think anything you want to, but it's also got to be borne out in actions too. And I think that much like everything else, there's a balance between the two that has to be struck.
And that's exactly right, because there's a lot of people who want to talk themselves into success, but that's not real confidence. Real confidence is backed by the experience that accompanies it. And even when you take that action and you get to the hill, you get top of the mountain, even though you might have fallen multiple times on the way there, there's a confidence nobody can take from you that will help you reach the next summit. And so I completely agree. Action is the key. You've got to take those steps and not just talk about who you are, prove to yourself who you are.
Get your head straight and then go show yourself. It's not even proving anything to anybody else. You got to prove it to yourself too.
That's right.
So
100%.
What one book or movie would you recommend?
Oh, man. So it's interesting that we talked about the Stoics. We've talked about, it's not necessarily the Greeks, but he reminded me of the Greeks. I love Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Yeah.
And I can just tell you that right now, because you asked what book I recommend. I like it because it's so self-examining. When you read it, you can read when Marcus Aurelius is saying, he's questioning everything that what's the purpose? Why does this matter? Why do we do what we do? To make sure you keep your values right there where you should be and make sure you're doing it for the right reason. I know we got philosophical, but really that affects everything you do.
Totally.
And so for me, and for some people that might be a little heavy reading, but that's what's kind of helped keep me focused too when I'm looking at that. And I like to kind of dwell in it, and you see where another man was 2,000 years ago, and we're all the same. We're all on that same journey. So I found it very helpful.
Yeah, how close it lines up with how things are today. No, totally.
Yeah, for sure. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. You know what? I don't normally ask this question, but I'd be curious to say, famous person in history you'd love to sit down and have lunch with.
So, boy, that's a good question. There's so many of them. Yeah, look, so I am a person of faith. I do have my faith, and I do believe in God. One of the things I would say at the top of my list would be Jesus Christ. I'm going to tell you right now, to have a conversation with him. I could talk about some others as well. Like, I've always revered Abraham Lincoln. There's some other people who went through some very difficult times, and to be
Sure.
able to understand the pressure that someone has gone through and to be able to just hear their resilience. I would love to say that we all would do the right things in every situation, but the mettle of the man is determined in that moment of high stress. And I've always respected someone when the whole world was on their shoulders and they absolutely did the right thing. That's the true definition of courage. Those are the kind of people that I would look to.
Okay, I got one more for you. One more that I never asked, but I'd be curious to hear. Um, what one person from your life, if you had to be trapped in a foxhole, who would you want there with you?
This kind of goes back to what you said about your family. Honestly, it would be my dad.
Yeah.
So for me, it's my dad. He's taught me everything I know about courage and confidence and being a man. And he's lived it in a way that, for me, live or die in the foxhole, whatever it is, I want to know there's somebody there I can count on,
Yeah.
that's got my back. And so to me, I think that's also a wonderful thing that you just asking that question reminds me of the legacy he's leaving by the fact the first person I thought of was him.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of the people I really like and I know, but there's nobody I respect more and trust more than my dad when it comes to that relationship.
Love it, man. Love it. All right, a couple of easy ones for you, and then we are done. Um, what do you do to unwind, Jeff?
Yeah. So this is the great thing. My wife is the great balancer. So one of the things we do is do what you talked about. Actually, we schedule our unwind time. We'll do simple things like we will take walks. We will take time together for dinners. We schedule our date nights. I'll
Wow.
unwind with her, and there are times where I will just literally get away for an entire day and do nothing but completely unwind. So I do have hobbies. One of the things I do, and this is kind of a different thing that maybe I used to be a jazz trumpet player for about 10 years
Nice.
when I was younger. Yeah. And what I love about playing jazz is that it forces you to live in the moment. When you're improvising, you can't think of anything else. You are literally living note to note, and it forces you to also listen to the rest of the rhythm section while you're
Yeah.
playing. So for me, it completely brings me into another realm. It's like another quantum when I'm playing. So that really helps me unwind. And my stress level just goes way down. So that's one of my big releases is playing jazz.
Love it, man. Didn't see that coming. For me, it was
Yeah,
ballroom dancing. Similar situation. You can't think about anything else while you're doing it.
I
There's
love
just
it.
too much going on. So,
Yeah. Those are the best kinds. Keeps you in it.
yeah, I
So
mean, like literally, there is no bandwidth left available to worry about anything because I am totally. I need everything present to make this happen.
that's right. But to me, it's so rewarding, and it gives me something to be. It's a realm for me to be creative in because the rules are it's improvisation. So while I'm improvising in a quintet environment, it's all there, and I'm just listening and I'm being present. So otherwise you can't hang on. You get dropped off to the side if you're
Yeah.
not there. I love it. Yeah.
All right. Last real substantive question for you, which is this: what's next for you, Jeff? You got a lot on your plate. You got a lot going on. I'm assuming there's another project because you're busy trying to leave nothing but a husk on the field. What do you got, Jeff?
Yeah. So my next project is to first of all, with STR Law Guys in the real estate space with asset protection, we're also integrating some tax strategy, some bookkeeping. What I'm doing is I just want to listen to the market. And what the market wants is they want some people that are integrating all of these people. You want a comprehensive solution to your
Sure.
problems. You don't want to have to go seek multiple areas to try to find 5 different professionals to provide that answer. So we're trying to really, and I'm backing up what I said earlier, work in joint venture relationships, find ways to create synergy amongst people that are already doing a wonderful job and just meet the customer's needs in a more comprehensive way. That's really what I'm taking on now. And I'm buying back more of my time. I'm leveraging. I'm doing everything I can to make sure I'm spending my time in that highest use, in that kind of zone of genius for my, to make sure I can provide the most value.
Love it. You've already built the thing, so the vertical integration just makes sense for not only you but your partners. You already have the people. That's genius. I love it. Um, all right. Last thing I got, Jeff, is if people want to know more about you, they want to find you. Where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you easily go to my YouTube channel. Just do a search for Jeff Hampton. You pull it up, you'll see there, or STR Law Guys. I've got a lot of good content there. Or you can reach out to strlawguys.com. Happy to reach out if you have any questions, ever have any issues on that end. I love sharing and giving people the information that they need. I always tell people I don't mind sharing all my secrets with people. And if anybody ever needs me for implementation, I'm here.
Good stuff. Jeff, thank you so much for what I am sure will go down as a great show. And I'm sure you've taught our folks a lot. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for bringing me on. I enjoyed it.
It was great. So to everybody listening, thank you so much to listen to the Know Your Shit podcast. Reminding you always, you have to commit to the most important and expensive bill in life. You must commit to pay attention. You gotta know your shit. Till next time, everyone.